Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 26th. A little bit about our agenda. First, I'd like to welcome our police department, our police chief, and our officers. If you all would, please stand so we can give you a round of applause. A little bit about our agenda. In just a minute, we're going to have a prayer. Jennifer Lane, if you'd come down here and join me. Jennifer's going to do the invocation. That's going to be followed. I'm going to introduce a special guest. That'll be followed by a pledge to the nation's flag and a pledge to the Texas flag. Jennifer?
Please stand. Lord, I would like to offer up a prayer of protection and well-being of our residents, for all those who live, work, and visit our city, for our local businesses to prosper, and so that we all may prosper from a thriving economy. For administrators, teachers, support staff, and all the students of our schools, please cast a shield of protection for our police, fire, and first responders, and all staff, that they continue to perform their jobs safely and with perseverance. For our city officials, our mayor, council members, board, and committee members, and all the volunteers that contribute their talent to serve wisely and with integrity, I pray for this protection and well-being and blessing for each one. Amen.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have a special guest tonight. Brianna Hu. Brianna, if you and your family, Allison, Devin, your mom, and we've got Brianna Hu is a 7th grader at Fort Settlement Middle School, and she won the gold medal in the 2024 Houston Art Rodeo Contest, and she's got she's a straight A student with interest in drawing, playing the piano, acting, and reading. Also with her tonight is Olivia Hooper with Fort Bend ISD Middle School art facilitator at Fort Settlement. And thank you for coming. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brianna just before we do the pledge.
Thank you. This is a wonderful experience that I'm very grateful to have.
You'll join us now in the pledge to the nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, one indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Brianna. And now, Councilmember, if you come, we'll get a picture. That everybody move. There you go. That's perfect. I have several people that have signed up for public comment. We're going to bring them down one at a time. I'd like you to introduce yourself. I'd like to know your name, your address, what agenda item you're speaking on, and you'll have 3 minutes. I know many of you, if not all of you, have been here before, so I think everybody kind of knows the drill. We're going to start with Sergey Garcia. If you'd please come down.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I'm here because I am deeply concerned with the ongoing genocide that is happening in Palestine. This is not only an issue that affects those in Palestine, but it's an issue that deeply affects all of us. As we are funding this ongoing ethnic cleansing, we are watching in real time the most soul-crushing images coming from Gaza, and many of us feel complicit and unheard by the current administration. Therefore, we are asking our local leaders to take a stand and speak out against the atrocities that are being committed against the people of Palestine. I ask you all to please be a voice for the voiceless and stand up to do your civic duty as our elected officials and people who hold power. Remember who elected you. Around 2/3 of the voters, that's 67%, including the majority of Democrats, 77%, Independents, 69%, and Republicans, 56%, support the U.S. calling for a permanent ceasefire and a de-escalation of violence in Gaza. What we are asking for is what the majority of the population is wanting. I urge you to please put a ceasefire resolution on the agenda, a permanent ceasefire resolution on the agenda, and vote for it in favor of it as well. This will send a strong statement not only to the Biden administration, but to the world, that the most diversity in the nation stands for humanity and that it's on the right side of history. I'm here today to ensure that my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren know where I stood. Where will you all stand? Will you be silent and complicit in this ongoing genocide, or will you stand up and say something? I know that a lot of you have been contacted by your community. Y'all received emails and phone calls. So we urge you to please put a ceasefire resolution on the agenda and vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next guest is Manal. And if you could state your full name and address, please.
Yes. My full name is Manal Qureshi. My address is 23702 McNabb Spur Lane, Richmond, Texas 77469. Hello, Council and everyone. I want to start by remembering the hundreds of Palestinians who were brutally killed by Israel while they tried to get flour for their families. Flour is a basic ingredient. For us, we can just go to our stores and buy it locally. For Gaza, flour means life and death. Too many people have died getting flowers for their family. For the world, flour is white. For Gaza, flour is red. Flour is white stained with red with blood. We have never seen this level of death and destruction as we have seen in Gaza. Ceasefire is the basic minimum. I would like to take a moment of silence for the people who have been innocent people who have been brutally killed by Israel, by the IDF soldiers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next guest is Michelle McKeska. Michelle, if you could tell us your address, please.
I overheard the city secretary say it is not legally required for me to do so. Is that correct?
That's correct. It doesn't prevent me from asking you to state your address. So if
Can I
you'd like not to,
refuse?
then you don't have to.
Okay. Good evening. The UN has passed a ceasefire resolution, which on the surface sounded like good news, until we learned that it will only be for 2 weeks. This is not enough. What we are demanding from our leaders is an immediate and permanent ceasefire. The violence must stop. The bombing must stop. Gazans still do not have enough food, and there is no mention of holding Israel accountable for blocking aid. It does not require expertise to know what needs to be done, only the willingness to act. We know what is right. We know what is happening to Gazans is wrong, immoral, and unjustifiable. The person who has the boot on the neck of another does not get to claim self-defense. Babies have been left to rot in incubators. Women have been assaulted. Medical staff and journalists arrested and killed. The list of war crimes silence in this genocide is long, and history will look back at this moment as the moment when we learn just how cowardly our leaders are. I leave you with the words of Jesus. He will be your judge, not me. And this is what he says. When the Son of Man comes in glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance. The kingdom's prepared for you. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will say, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or give you something to drink? When did we visit you in prison?" And the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Then he will say on the left, "Depart from me, those who did not give me food when I was hungry. When I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me." They will also answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger needing clothes?" He will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for the least of these, you did not do for me." Then they will go away to eternal
5
punishment,
seconds.
but the righteous to eternal life. I leave you to contemplate your eternal future.
Our next guest is Romana Ahmed.
My name is Romana Ahmed, 11919 Sugarland, Texas, Davis Mountains Drive, Sugarland, Texas. Thank you for having us. Good evening, Sugarland Council members. I'm Romana Ahmed, mental health clinician, director of a nonprofit org, and I'm back. I'm here to implore you for a ceasefire resolution. I don't speak to you as the other. I'm one of the city's longtime residents. I've been here since Pops with a wooden paddle at Sugarland Middle School was still a thing. That's decades of residence. In the recent words of Francesca Albanese, UN Special Rapporteur, Israel has committed 3 acts of genocide with requisite intent, killing members of the other group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions life calculated to bring its physical destruction in whole or part. End of quote. 30,000 Palestinians have been murdered by Israel since October 7th, and that staggering number, 13,000, are children. Most of you must be parents. Please open your hearts and let this move you. At least 100,000 Palestinians have been wounded in Israel's brutal assault on Gaza, and more than 10 Palestinian children daily lose a limb. How can we remain silent? What more must we see for us to take action? Israel's vile destruction of Gaza's healthcare system are flagrant war crimes and a part of their genocidal intent. At this point, all hospitals in Gaza are either damaged, destroyed, out of service, or partially functioning because of Israel's assault. I implore you, please don't look away. If you ever wondered what you would have done during history's most egregious evil periods, during the Holocaust, American slavery, the genocide of Native Americans, it's what you are doing right now. Are you on the side of the oppressor or the oppressed? Will history testify that Sugarland fought with everything in our power to save a whole population of people from the greatest massacre of our lifetime? Or will history testify that Sugarland was silent and therefore complicit in genocide? Thank you so much for your time.
Our next guest is Avita Gasparova. Eve.
I'm not going to share my address. I'm also not here to yell at you today, though I wasn't planning on yelling at you last time, so we'll see. The U.S. has, for the first time, abstained from a U.S. ceasefire resolution instead of vetoing it. Even if it is for 2 weeks, that's something. It caused Netanyahu to cancel his trip to the White House, and when asked about that, White House National Communications Advisor John Kirby said the following: "It's a non-binding resolution, so there's no impact on Israel, and it does not represent a change at all in our policy. The UN resolution is binding, but Israel can ignore it because it still has the military support of the US empire. There has to be internal pressure to change, which is why I'm here again, begging you to use your voices, given to you by your constituents, to ask that the US stop using their tax dollars to fund a genocide." Many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery, or the Jim Crow South, or apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing a genocide? The answer is you're doing it, right now. That was the final social media post of Aaron Bushnell, the active duty member of the US Air Force who self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy exactly 1 month ago today. Aaron live-streamed, walking to the embassy as he said, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I am about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it is not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal." He then poured the accelerant over his head and lit it, screaming "Free Palestine" over and over as the flames engulfed him and he eventually fell silent. Self-immolation has a long history as a political protest and reminds me of the Buddhist protests on the Vietnam War in the 60s. In a letter to MLK, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "To burn oneself by fire is to prove that what one is saying is of the utmost importance. There is nothing more painful than burning oneself. To say something while experiencing this kind of pain is to say it with the utmost courage, frankness, determination, and sincerity." I'd like to use the rest of my time for a moment of silence for Aaron Bushnell and for all those affected by Israel's occupation of Palestine. Thank you.
Our next guest is Amina Ishaq.
Hello, my name's Amna Ishaq. I'm here again. And I'm really emotional today. This week was very hard. Every week has been very hard for many of us. Most of your constituents are hurting mentally for our brothers and sisters in Gaza and Palestine. There was over 1,000 Christians in Gaza, and their churches have been demolished. They're being ethnically cleansed there. And I know most of you on this council are Christian. I wanted to read, I'm sure you all have heard about Al-Shifa Hospital. It's one of the last standing hospitals in Gaza. And I want to tell you the story of a sister who died last week, or actually just a few days ago. And it's very hard for me to tell her story, but it's needed, and I think we need to hear it. And I'm going to read it right now. A Palestinian woman at Al-Shifa Hospital in West Gaza City was forced to undress and endure a brutal beating despite revealing that she was 5 months pregnant. Ignoring her pleas, the IDF continued their assault. Hours later, they removed all the women except the pregnant victim and her children. They then subjected her to rape in full view of her husband, relatives, and children, threatening the men with death if they closed their eyes. Tragically, they eventually killed her, extinguishing both her life and that of her unborn child. want to, at the last minute, I just want to have a moment of silence for her and her unborn child, as well as her children that watched her die, and her family members that were forced to watch it as well.
This time, we don't have anybody else signed up to speak. If you'd like to speak, if you'd come down, you can go ahead and speak, and then we'll get you to fill out the form later. Going to move on now to item number 3, ordinances and resolutions. 3A, first consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2338, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of Ordinances by adding a new school zone. We have with us tonight Brian Butcher, our Executive Director of Public Works. Brian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't know if y'all are aware, but Eldridge Parkway is actually FM 1876. It's a state road. A number of weeks ago, TxDOT called us and informed us that they had completed an evaluation of Eldridge and determined that in front of the Harmony Charter School there at Woodchester, there needed to be a school zone installed. They are going to do the install for the school zone. They're going to do all the maintenance for the poles and everything. I know you're probably asking yourself, if they're doing the install on their road, why are we here? We adopt all of our school zones into ordinance so that these fine men and women can actually enforce it. So all I'm here for this evening is to acknowledge TxDOT's work to justify one, inform y'all that it's coming, and seek support for amending the school zone so that we can enforce it. So with that, we're seeking approval of the first reading of ordinance 2338, amending chapter 5127 of the Code and Ordinances by amending a school zone, or by adding a school zone on Eldridge, FM 1876, right there at the Harmony Charter School.
Questions? Got a motion by Watley, second by McCutcheon. Your vote this time, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, council members. Item 3B, consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Resolution number 2420, a resolution of the City Council of City of Sugar Land, Texas, suspending the April 10th, 2024 effective date of CenterPoint Energy, Houston Electric, LLC's requested rate change to permit the city time to study the request and to establish reasonable rates, approving continued cooperation with the Gulf Coast Coalition of Cities, hiring Lloyd Gosselink attorneys and consulting services to negotiate with the company and buy any necessary litigation and appeals, requiring reimbursement of city's rate case expenses, and requiring notice of this resolution to the company and legal counsel for the Gulf Coast Coalition of Cities. Nishad, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you conduct that. Meredith, you'll hold up, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. As the caption so eloquently states exactly what you're doing here, I'll be here to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Motion to approve by Jacobson. Second. Second by Ferguson. It's all vote. It passes 6-0. caption was longer.
Apparently so. Now we're going to move to item number 4, workshop for a review of and discussion on the Police Department 2023 annual report. We've got our Chief of Police, Mark Poland. Mark, you're on the clock, man. The fire department came before you guys did, but y'all got a show of force, so I think you're going to win.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. It's definitely my pleasure to present to you tonight the 2023 annual report. What I would clarify is not my report, it's their report. It's the work that the guys and gals behind me have done. You're going to hear me reference a lot on service, performance, the 6 pillars we have in the police department: family, professional, and leadership, growth, training, accountability, communication, general orders, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, what has made this 2020 or last year such a success is the teamwork. And it's the folks that are here, and they're here on their own decisions. Most, if not all, are probably off. Their shifts are over. They're here on their off days. I've been in law enforcement 28 years, and when you talk about teams and teamwork, I've never seen one like this. So I just to lay the groundwork, and I apologize. I don't want to bore you tonight with data and stats, but we're very data driven. It's driving our resources. It's driving our decision making. But I can tell you the teamwork, I just cannot speak enough about the teamwork. And that is, that's what I'll go through here tonight. But the teamwork, if you look in our vision there, it states industry standard. You know, the teamwork here, it's 200 and almost 50 people. And for us, it doesn't matter what your title is, what your rank is, what is on your collar, what's on your sleeves. That's all silly. It really is. It's irrelevant. In fact, personally, the only title I'm proud of is father, right? That's what matters. So the teamwork here, we're one team. It doesn't matter if you're civilian staff. It doesn't matter if you're sworn staff. It doesn't matter if you got 30 years on the job or 3 months on the job. It's what's in their hearts and the decisions that they're making in their heads, and they're phenomenal. So I'll keep going. Okay, so 245 staff. The department this year did grow. We grew. The city manager and E-team decided to place dispatch they were a separate standalone department. They then moved under the police department, as well as emergency management was transitioned and moved under the police department. So our team grew. Hasn't changed services, hasn't changed delivery of any decision-making. In fact, it's probably enhanced it because our resources, our team is just growing, and our groupthink, our problem-solving is just continuing to expand. So I just wanted to touch on that dispatch and emergency management was folded under. Here's a short video.
being professional is a very big part of doing that. High visibility enforcement is something that I actually kind of took it from the NHTSA manual, which was high visibility traffic enforcement. So that was a program that NHTSA puts together that different agencies practice to go after traffic offenders. So I took the traffic part out, and so I brought it into an enforcement action of interdiction. So after COVID and just the other things that were happening around the country, officers were kind of stagnant. And so this is something that myself and the sergeants, we kind of came up with to kind of help and light the fire underneath them, so to speak. What we did was we paired up officers. First we asked volunteers, but some would do it, some wouldn't. But we paired up officers, and their whole job for the whole shift is to go out on the streets. They're not in the call rotation, and their job is to go out to the streets and go make contact. So whether it's civilian contacts, people walking, or if it's traffic contacts, whatever. Again, they're not on the call rotation, so they have free will of the city.
The Command Competency Lab is a new and innovative training process here. This is the first joint training of its kind in the area, but the ultimate goal is to improve the way commanders from different departments cooperatively manage large active scenes. It's helpful for us because it allows us to replicate full-scale exercises using less personnel, and we can put those on over and over again in a controlled environment so that we can get all of our staff through those different trainings. We've elected to kick this off with an active violence event. Most people call it an active shooter event, but we can use any number of potential hazards to set this up. It could be a hazmat incident, it could be a natural disaster, or we could even build out a fire call that we have here in the city to either replicate a great performance that we had or address shortcomings that we had in that response process.
My thought process on the mission is ensuring that we develop the next generation of officers to take our place. We're not going to be here forever. Somebody's going to have to pick up the wheel and drive the vehicle, but we want to take the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience that we've had and ensure that we pass that down to the next generation of officers. So when they step up to this plate or this level, at the command level, they bring forth all that knowledge and proceed forward.
We are constantly seeking new ideas. The future of Sugar Land Police Department, we're trailblazers. Think about that. Moving into the unknown, policing is dynamic, it's challenging, looking ahead, forecasting, trying to look and see what's next around the corner that we have to prepare for, and establishing that platform, that ground, that foundation to be able to provide those services to the citizens. So moving forward, we keep our foot on the gas every day here. We have to keep our foot on the gas. We're looking out the windshield. We're not looking out the rearview mirror, and we're serving the citizens.
Okay, thank you for that. That was a video that our team put together and was featured actually at the International Association Chiefs of Police Conference this year. It was pretty cool that we got highlighted there, and again, it's their work. It's their efforts and their work, so it was really nice just for all the chiefs, all the sheriffs, all the leadership that are at that conference, and there's thousands of them, to get a glimpse at the work that the guys and gals are doing here. Pretty neat stuff. All right, total calls for service here, we're just almost at 84,000 calls for service for the year. Our goal, we did hit our goal to respond to calls for service within 7 minutes. It's one of our performance measures. We hit that at 83%, succeeding there. And the calls for service actually went up compared to 2022, 18%. The total calls for service. Right there is why. The bottom numbers, 130 firearms arrests, literally a 100% increase from 2022, an 89% increase in narcotics arrest, and a 23% increase in DWI arrest by these guys and gals. Again, I'm gonna reference proactive and reactive throughout this presentation. They are proactive through and through. I've seen, I've observed reactive law enforcement agencies. You can do it, but you will be a very mediocre department. Trust me, you can get by being reactive. They're not. They are proactive. They're out there protecting and serving us and the citizens, and they're doing an incredible job at it. So the calls for service went up. obviously firearms, narcotics, and DWI arrests. And there's other impacts to this. As you heard Lieutenant Rivera speak on the high visibility, I'll touch on that as well.
Yeah, those are pretty impressive numbers.
The crime rate, you can see the crime rates there for the last few years. The dip for 2020, obviously, and that's kind of standard across the country. A lot of the crime rates dipped during 2020, just with COVID and that. It dropped a little bit for 2023 compared to 2022. However, if you remove the proactive component from that, the crimes are reducing. You can see the proactive numbers, those arrests that were mandated to report to the state, they jack up our numbers. But it's proactive police work. Or also that high visibility, you're also preventing and reducing other crimes. Criminals see that. So if you remove the proactive component to it, you can see the actual crime rate dropped. It dropped significantly, which is a very good thing. It's paying off. Their work is paying off. We did have 3 homicides. I can say all 3 were family relationship type related homicides. All 3 were cleared by arrest. And we did have 2 incidents of manslaughter, both vehicular. Over 200 domestic violence incidents and identified over 432 crime victims. I do want to bring up a note here. The Crime Victim Services Unit provides assistance to any person involved in a person's crime. That's a little misleading. It's a unit, but it's one person. And her name is Trista Korzinski, and she's phenomenal. She has reached out to so many victims and followed up with so many victims of crime. And again, it says it's a unit, it's one lady, and she's doing tremendous work in there. We're following up with so many cases. Robberies, we did have 33 robberies, still seeing the juggings, the bank juggings, things of that nature, very targeted type incidents. The 4-year trend that the crime analysts are seeing here with persons crimes increasing, a lot of that is tied back to road rage incidents as well. So that's and again, with these highways going right through the city here, that is a cause of that, and we're seeing a slow increase in that. Moving on to property crimes here, you can see, and again, the proactive work, the proactive high visibility enforcement here. Look at the total number of incidents reported. Just in general, property crimes dropped 14%. You can see the majority are shoplifting cases there, but they have reduced, and that is a absolute direct impact of the high visibility efforts that we're referring to here. Burglaries of motor vehicles, they dropped 24%. Burglaries dropped 50%, and auto thefts dropped 7%. I'd put those numbers up against any jurisdiction. I really would. We're doing it. Our guys and gals are wearing multiple hats. We're not a very large agency. We're not a small agency either, but we're wearing multiple hats. We're solving multiple problems. But I'm going to go back to the teamwork. It doesn't matter what's on your collar, what's on your sleeve, how many years you got on the job. They're doing it with their passion to serve and the mindset and making the decisions as professionals, and it's paying off. Kudos to them. Records in detention. And I want to try to hit as much as I can through here, and I apologize if I start going too fast here. Please let me know if I'm going too fast. I want to get through everything, but I want to touch a little bit on as much of the departments, or excuse me, as much of the units and divisions within the department as I can. We did process almost 2,500 or just over 2,400 open records requests. It's very time consuming for the folks working in records. We've got 5 detention officers. We have 5 detention officers on paper. We do have some vacancies in our detention positions right now, but you can also see the bookings have increased quite a bit from 2021, 22, and 23. So we're doing a lot. The guys and gals working the shifts often have to fill in and cover these spots. You know, it's not something that they would most ideally want to do, to come off the street and to cover other assignments, but it goes back to that teamwork. We make it happen, we make it work. Traffic enforcement. Starting to use, and I'll talk a little bit in general on all traffic enforcement, technology, drones. We use drones a lot. We fly drones every day. We fly them all over the place. They go up, they come down. Sometimes they come down, we don't want them to. It's a cost of doing business. But we're out there, we're trying to make a difference. It happens. We're using them now most recently with, we got new software to investigate fatality or major crashes. We can send a drone up, we got new software, we can recreate crash investigations like that. Before, crime scene had to set up what used to be state-of-the-art technology called a Faro machine that at the time we thought was incredible to recreate down to the exact measurements on these major scenes. But now we can do it in the air very quick. We've got 2 folks doing commercial vehicle inspections, 116 inspections completed and 54 of those vehicles taken out of service. You can see here our traffic stops, the high visibility we referenced, went up 56%. That's just proactive police work. That's all that is, proactive police work. Getting out there, keeping people safe, looking for suspicious vehicles, suspicious persons, getting involved, professional, and looking for crime. Whoops. Criminal investigations, okay. Our detectives, I had the opportunity to work with University of Houston and a professor there that did a study actually for the district attorney's office. And the conversation, and she was looking at Fort Bend crime altogether in Fort Bend County. So one of the things that came up were clearance rates, and detectives are also, detective bureaus are rated, viewed, the performance measures come down to clearance rate. How the frequency of closing cases, closed by arrest, closed by prosecution, prosecution decline, things of that nature. The Sugar Land team has a 34.7% closure rate. It went up 46%. And what she told me when she was analyzing other agencies in Fort Bend County as well as in the Houston area, we were exceeding them tremendously in our detective bureau and closing out cases. She was floored. And that study, her study is actually posted on the DA's website it's pretty thick, but it's posted out there if you want to review it. We've broadened our partnerships and teamwork there. You can see right on the right is one of our detectives that's assigned to the FBI Safe Streets. That's over 100 pounds of cocaine removed. And we just joined these task forces. We just got in these. And it's basically just scope. It's expanding our resources. It's expanding our help to come in and follow up with cases. The ATF NIBIN, that is essentially the investigation of the lands and grooves of a shell casing or a bullet or some of that effect to try to match up rounds or casings to other crimes. The ATF, they're experts at it. We're now involved in that as well. The ATF gun strike force, they take a different approach. They're going for felony crimes, robberies where weapons are involved and used and things of that nature. So we're expanding our reach is what we're doing. We're providing more assistance to the citizens, more services to the citizens by expanding our resources. And we just started doing this. Digital Forensics Unit. Once again, that's probably a little misleading. It is a unit, but we really have one guy, Sergeant Matt Levan, that's running the Digital Forensics Unit here. And that's, when you think of a crime now, when you think of the number of phones that we have processed, we got 104 here. Cases now, it's unheard of to have a crime where a phone is not involved. A phone is not evidence, right? And normally it's not just one phone. It can be anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 phones, 10 phones, computers, everything, tablets, whatever it may be tied to a crime that we need to look at. Each phone takes, on average, about 2 to 3 days just to get into the phone and download the material and the data. And then that's just taking that data and passing that off to the lead detective to start working the case and actually start looking at how to analyze that and to solve a crime, use it to solve a crime. I'm not a computer guy, but I understand 13.8 terabytes is like a lot of data. I don't know how to, it's a lot. They assured me it's a lot. Just some additional information on certifications we received for our digital forensic unit there. Over 100 call outs, 6,000 intake items. So forensic services unit. This unit is composed of 4 civilian staff and 2 sworn staff. So when you think of crime scene, CSI, that's our folks here. 100 plus call outs, that's a lot. That's good. That means we're responding to, a lot of agencies don't go. They won't send folks out to look for evidence. We're doing it with professionalism, very proactive approach. If there's potential evidence there, we're going to look for it, we're going to find it. We've got over 75,000 pieces of evidence in storage. That is a lot. We took in just over 6,000 this year. The external assist, I do want to highlight that. This group, our forensic services unit, they've got quite the reputation of being rock stars, for lack of better terms. They are professional. They are well known in the Houston region for the services they can do. And when I say we assist other agencies, I'm talking DPS, Stafford, Katy, Rosenberg, Richmond, Houston PD, Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, Fort Bend District Attorney's Office, Missouri City, and even the Texas Rangers come to our team to help process scenes for them. We wanted to put this in here, and I know this is a piece of evidence, or excuse me, a piece of equipment that they're very proud of, and I hope I don't butcher this, I'm gonna butcher it. But essentially, this is one of two pieces of equipment within our crime scene lab that has the ability to remove latent prints, readable prints, off of clothing, materials that wouldn't normally just give you a visible, easy print to look for. But this machine, I think we're still the only one in Fort Bend County that has this, and for a while, I think we were the only ones in the entire area that had one. Austin might have had it. I can't remember the other jurisdiction that had it. Austin? Yeah. But it essentially you put your piece of evidence in there, whatever it is you're trying to get a latent print off of, and then it uses gold flakes to attach itself to the print. And the forensics units are probably really upset right now how I'm explaining this, but that's the best way I can do it. It's really cool, it's really good equipment, and we solve a lot of crimes with it, and they're phenomenal with what they do. Technology, moving on. I said we use drones. We fly drones a lot. We use them in everything. We're taking a little different approach. You can see our drone usage went up here about 180%. The flight hours, we've got 14 pilots, I believe, with almost just over 1,700 total flights, almost 1,800 total flights there. We're taking a little different approach. I'm gonna go back to proactive again, where we're trying to put a drone up in the air to use for whatever it may be, for perimeters, looking for suspects, whatever it is, almost immediately on certain types of calls for service. We just started this. Most agencies will use a drone in a very reactive approach. We're taking a proactive approach. So the drone's going up almost at the same time that the patrol units are going to the scene. And these are for certain select calls for service, right? It's not for every call, but if we've got a perimeter we know we set up or an in-progress type call, we want to get that drone up there as quick as we can to help those officers. It's paying off. Just an example of this, you can see this is a picture of a drone. Suspect would not listen to the officers, so we put the drone up in the air. We don't know, he wouldn't open the door, wouldn't open a window, we can't see his hands, so we send the drone up, and ultimately through the drone, we realize, okay, he's holding a cell phone. At least we know he's not holding a gun. So it's just an example of other tools and other ways to use the drone. And obviously there's another one where, you know, with the night vision, use at night, and that's one of our Bravos River Park. It's pitch black out there, so officers are trying to look for an individual. You put the drone up, and it pops up right away. Emergency management, as I said earlier, emergency management fell under or was moved and transitioned under the police department. They have EOC activations here, 21 total EOC activations, 6 tabletop exercises. They're big in grant writing. I don't want to focus too much on the EOC activations because that's it's really the planning, it's the comprehensive planning, it's the strategic planning that they could put into place here. And also I realized we activated the EOC here. I think we had a couple flakes of ice come down here the last few months, and I realized I didn't really know what was happening here. Everybody was shutting down, closing early. We activated the EOC, but it is what it is. I'm getting used to it. They knew what they were doing. I let them run with it. They hit it. They did great at it. But what I want to focus on is the tabletop exercises, the planning, the preparation, the partnerships that these folks are putting in here. You know, these are tabletop exercises on active shooter, train derailments, hurricanes, blackouts, crime scenes. It's a proactive approach to prepare for the what is around the corner. And that's what they're doing. And they're bringing the county agencies in, they bring the state agencies in, they bring other departments in and collaborate and communicate and prepare. And I watched them firsthand on the little bit of ice storm that we had here the last time, and they hit a home run. So they're doing good work. Shifting gears here a little bit, accountability and early intervention training. I want to bring this up. This is essentially, it's a software system, and iPro, and it's nothing new. iPro has been used for decades across the country with police agencies. We just implemented it though. And it's an early intervention tool to identify performance, specifically areas of concern of performance, to address them before they turn into issues that are too serious, for lack of better terms, maybe to come back from or to recover from. And I'd share an example for you here. So iPro, the Internal Affairs Unit, they review these cases as they come in. And the system's looking for patterns and trends, whether it's use of force, pursuits, whatever it might be, but the supervisors are too. And one thing we've already found just in the 84 cases we reviewed, specifically to use of force cases, the response to resistance is 100% justified, 100% justified in the officer's actions. But we noticed a pattern of report writing. We needed to improve our report writing. We had to be better at what we were documenting and what we saw, clenched fists, clenched teeth, the verb, whatever the individual is saying, just things of that nature that when it gets into court, we can be the industry standard. So that's one simple little example of how iPro is holding all of us accountable. It's making us better. It's not there to be like an aha moment. It's there literally to identify the performance and what we need to improve on, and it's working already. Dispatch. Dispatch came under the police department as well, over 223,000 calls in general. That's just anytime a dispatcher's picking up a phone, we had over 220,000. Of those, 100,790 turned into an actual logged call for service to public safety. Below that, you can see the breakdown. 88% of those were for police, 12% for fire and EMS. Of the 88% for police, if you look to the right, 48% self-initiated, proactive work. Okay, that's proactive work. Let's see here. Of all the calls you can see on the left side of the 200 and some thousand, 66,000 were 911, and then a lot of administrative calls. So the folks in dispatch are busy. They are very busy, and they do a phenomenal job. Training. Training is, I mentioned in the video that policing now is very dynamic, it's very challenging. It is, it's very difficult. The national media, local media, every single thing that is done, that is said, that is reacted, it's judged within seconds. It's judged within just clips of a video. People do not understand the volume of training that these guys and gals have to undergo to go out and serve. So if you look just, for example, we've got over 147 courses that officers are involved in. Just our instructors alone put in over 2,000 hours of training, of instructing, and then our total student hours is over 12,000 hours. We're talking topics from defensive tactics. We converted to new sights on our pistols, whether it's investigations, death investigations, sexual assault investigations, Project Lifesaver, K9, DWI, CPR, firearms, taser, crisis intervention, leadership training, legal training, baton training, OC training. We are constantly training. And that is a challenge, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, because not only the mandates by law to continue to train, but our training standards are above the Texas standards. We want to be above and better than what is required. So I want to bring this up, and again, this goes back to teamwork. So what you're watching on the right, those videos, this is the sim house that is out at our near our range. But what you got to understand here, our officers built this themselves. They took this upon themselves, and it's professional. I'm like, this work that they've done here is unbelievable. But they did it for their own training. They did it so, the SWAT team, K9, patrol drones, fire EMS, so many people use this sim house here to conduct searches and building searches and entries and things of that nature. And it's critical that we practice that so much to make sure that, we don't make mistakes and we're keeping ourselves safe, we're keeping citizens safe. But everything you're seeing here, these guys and gals built on their own. They did this all on their own. So I'm pretty excited as we move forward here this year with the public training facility and looking forward to some really cool opportunities moving forward. But again, you're not going to find agencies where guys and gals are taking it upon themselves to do the work like this on their own. They just won't do it. High threat team. So this is the initiative that Lieutenant Suter spoke of in the video, and this is near and dear to my heart. It's an initiative that I started in my old agency, and I knew I wanted to bring it here. And at the end of the day, we do not want to be the next Parkland. We do not want to be the next Uvalde, period. We have got to train, and we have got to prepare. What I started seeing, though, and what we started seeing in my old department, fire and rescue and police don't always communicate. They don't always talk on what I would say a critical scene or an in-progress type scene. Historically, you would see fire and rescue roll up, kind of do their thing. You'd see police roll up and do their thing. Well, what this training is, literally, it's live training, scenario-based training, but for lack of better terms, we have role players, you have your incident, we have live dispatchers, but you put, and Chief Boker and his team, they jumped right on this, and we've partnered on this, and honestly, we've hit a home run, and we're launching it here to train everyone. You take a fire and rescue supervisor that would be an incident commander on a scene, and then you take a police commander that would be on a scene, and you put them in the hot seat right next to each other, side by side. Then the scenario kicks off and starts playing, and you start high with an active shooter. You get the blood pressure, you get all the resources coming in, but they're right there together. They're talking, they're working together, they're collaborating, they're saying how we can maybe set up protective corridors and take EMS into certain areas and drag folks out that need help immediately, and they talk and they communicate. And what I watched happen in my old department, we trained and we practiced, and every single supervisor goes through this, all supervisors. You'll see anxiety levels go through the roof when they're getting ready to go to this training. And what we also see, they come out of this training and they're like, oh my gosh, that was good, like I needed that. And then you start a maintenance program, you keep them going through it, and you change the scenarios, you make it a school, you make it a business center, you make it whatever you want to make it. But they're talking and they're working together. When they're doing it here, we started seeing it on the road in reality where, they weren't the high level incidents, but it may have been a major crash or it may have been a barricaded subject. Next thing you know, man, they're partnered right up together, we're talking, and we're just collaborating so much better. So this is a huge success, and the folks that have put the efforts into getting this together, they've done a phenomenal job, tremendous job. Lieutenant Carter, Lieutenant Suter, our training section, the fire and rescue folks, they have just all done a tremendous job in making this real and making it happen here. Could not be more proud of them. Mental health. When I started on the street, over 25 years ago, it was very easy to just arrest your way out of a problem. And that's what you did. That's what we did. I'm not saying that's right, but that was what you did. You look at over, almost 980 mental health calls for service here, crisis-related calls. That is a lot of time, a lot of effort. Just here alone so far for this year, just the first 3 months, we've got 279 mental health calls for service already. So we know we got to do better. We know what's in front of us. We know how we have to approach this. So we got additional people trained and certified in the mental health, with mental health tools, basically. But then on the right, if you look, one thing we did, we said, the folks here knew where the barriers and the challenges were throughout the whole system, whether it was the hospitals, the judges, whatever it may be. The guys and gals here know the system just as I knew my old system and where the barriers were. So we get all the stakeholders together. That was one of our first mental health stakeholders meeting. As you can see, we brought in hospitals, we brought in Texana, we brought in everybody that we could think of to get in the same room and at least just start having conversations on how we can do better. They've had many, many more. Officer Brittany Moreno has taken this by the horn, so to speak, and is running with it and is doing a phenomenal job with it. It's not going anywhere. It's not going away. We're going to continue to have to train on this. We're going to have to continue to pour resources into this, but we're addressing it. It's not going away, but we're definitely addressing it. Staff development. Over the last year, we've had 13 promotions, 7 civilian promotions. We added Assistant Chief Nikki Smith. You've met her. We've done some leadership training. Another thing that, Chief Davis graduated from the FBI National Academy, and we're looking at, it's not just, I don't want to just focus on the sworn either, but the training is just as critical for our entire team, all of our staff, our civilian staff, our sworn staff. And it's hard to nudge guys and gals that have been on the job for 20 years or 25 years and try to get them into training. But sometimes those are the ones that need it the most and need the refresher. So it's a team approach. It's across the board. Challenges, I just do want to touch on that quickly before I close out here. Growth in space. The lease at Floor is up. We're working with our partners in economic development. We're working with the E-team. We're working with areas to identify where we can move, where we can put folks, but we're growing. We're growing tremendously. Our budget is a bit of a challenge. We're making it work, but I'm going to just tie that back to the proactive police work, the training, the overtime, the events that we cover. We're going to do it right. We're not going to leave the Honeyland festivals. We're not going to leave the 4th of July. We are going to do them right. We are going to protect our citizens. And so that's where that's coming into play. And then obviously technology cost. Just as bad guys are using technology, we need to use technology. We got to keep up with the technology. Technology is not cheap, and it's changing almost daily, but there's nothing new there. Staff retention, we experience, I think right now we're at about a 6 or 7% vacancy, which is not horrible. It's not ideal, but it's not horrible. One thing we did with the help of, and something the city manager approved, was for us to start the lateral hire program, and that's been a huge success already. So we started advertising. We're bringing in guys and gals that are certified Texas officers outside, and we're bringing them in. We're able to pay them a little bit more money and bring them in and help. Media and marketing, trying to just sell our brand, sell our, share, be transparent. I don't believe in social media as creating, it creates transparency, but it doesn't create legitimacy, if that makes sense. So we use our social media to be transparent, but our actions, what we do, how we say it, will lead to the public trust, which is our profit, which creates our legitimacy. So I've spoken a while here, just wrapping up. Could not be more proud of 2023, of the team. I know I came in, it's hard to believe it's been a year already, but we came in, we've kept our foot on the gas. I ask a tremendous amount from these guys and gals. They do it without thinking, without complaining. They get out there. How can we get the job done? One of my command staff refers to it as a sprint. I think he's right. It is a sprint. But with today's world, with the dynamics of policing, if we walk or jog, we're going to be a mediocre department. That's not going to be the industry standard. We're going to continue to sprint. We're going to continue with this teamwork. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to every day ask ourselves, what do we do good? What can we do better? And we're going to make it happen. And I just could not be more proud of this year and the team and how they've come together and served everyone. So I think that's it. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions? Go ahead.
So I have a serious question and maybe not so serious question. The serious question is, why do you feel the burglaries are higher in the residential homes over apartments? Because all we ever hear is complaints about apartments. Why do you think that is? That's the serious question.
Yeah. I would argue in the residential areas, there's a home, even though it's in a community, the home somewhat is still isolated, meaning I'm only going into one home. I'm not walking through these hallways. I'm not walking through heavy populated parking lots. This isn't database. This is just 20 some years of doing the job response, if that makes sense. It's easier to watch one home. It's easier to watch when people are coming and going. Are there cars in the driveway? Are there newspapers are stacked up at the end of the driveway? Oh, there's 5 newspapers there. maybe watch this home. Someone might not be there. You can't do that in an apartment.
Sure.
There's just more activity in an apartment.
Right.
I'd argue that some of it, right, is that I think the opportunity is there. You know, if you think of the crime triangle, it's victim, opportunity, and an offender. I'd argue that it's the opportunity piece.
I am always impressed with everything you guys are doing. Your stats are unbelievable in a weird way, because I'm a very prideful guy. You know, I've been a cop for 32 years, and I have to tell you, I hate the fact that I was never a Sugar Land police officer.
Wow.
And so that is my not serious question is to revisit the terabyte description. Do you mind explaining what a terabyte is again? Not really.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Jen.
Thank you, Chief. The work-life balance, of course, is top priority. I'm really glad that you are a huge proponent of that. So, in the cross-communication, I've really noticed that too, with working with everyone and across our county, with all the different agencies and the hospitals and all of that. I've been to some of those meetings. It seems like we're plugging along slowly but surely, and I'm really impressed with Sugar Land taking the lead on that, with Brittany and everything that she's done. So on one of the slides, I saw that the online transactions and the meetups, is this like with Facebook Marketplace and selling things?
Correct.
Like, could you expand upon that?
So, right. So any type of transaction that you're doing online, all the different platforms, there's numerous ones, right? You still don't know who you're meeting until you get there. So once you do meet up, it's that unknown. And is that sale legit, or is that sale going to turn into a theft or a robbery? So that's what I'm referring to. So that there's still risk involved in those sales. You have to be very careful, very conscious of your surroundings, your awareness, what you're doing. Even if you pull into the front of the PD, and it doesn't necessarily mean that parking lot is monitored. It doesn't mean, you know, that, and we recommend choose a well-lit area, choose a highly populated area, but that you have to be careful and very cautious. So that's the note for that, is it's still that unknown factor of who you're meeting to sell an item. And you've got to be careful. You have to be careful with it.
Follow?
So like, I don't know, to prevent that from happening, to have like, okay, Saturday meetup at certain parking lot at certain location, would be like a weekend thing in Sugar Land or something like that. I've noticed that in other cities where they would meet up in a certain parking lot, and that's the day where people would make those exchanges and do that, if that would be safer. I don't know, it's just an idea.
I think, no, I understand. I think also, you know, let folks know what you're doing, where you're going, bring somebody with you. There is protection in numbers also, right? And at the end of the day, whatever you're selling, it's not worth whatever can happen, you know, at the end of the day. Take it and be a good witness. Does that answer your question? Sort of.
Chief, thank you, and to all the men and women behind you and whoever's out on the streets, thank you all very much for what you do on a daily basis. You had a slide up here that mentioned challenges, and one of the words was budget.
Yes.
And I know you know this council really well. We will support you and Doug Boker in whatever you need to keep our public safe. So
thank you.
Please ask for it.
Okay.
And let's see what we can do to get you what you need.
I appreciate that. I spoke to Chief Boker before, and he told me this year he was going to pass and let me take what I needed. So. We can give him a little bit, but.
You know what? I think I'm going to let the city manager handle that between the two of you guys. I think you'll have a good time with that.
All right.
Anyone else? Carol?
Well, this is a really impressive report, and I just want to thank you all for everything you do to keep us safe and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Everybody good? Chief, to you men and women,
thank you.
Great job. Do we have scouts in the audience? Maybe not. Okay, let's move on to item number 5, City Council City Manager Report. 5A, William, we're going to start with you.
Well, I proved my physical ability to this weekend by outrunning two very young ladies at a 5K, and I almost had to contact EMS when that was over. But the entire 5K is put on, I think it was the 4th year, by a Sugar Land teenager. I believe he's a sophomore this year. And the whole idea was his, and it is to benefit the seniors in our community. It was unbelievable, but I did beat those two young ladies.
So you're now classified as a senior?
Well, I am actually a senior, yes, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
I just want to make sure I highlighted that. Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to build on what William said. It was called Senior Heart Care, and the most satisfying thing happened at that event, and there was a young lady who was the MC with a microphone, and she was very, very good, and she introduced William as Councilwoman Ferguson, so that was the most satisfying thing that happened to me in the last week. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Stuart and Shawn.
No report, Mayor.
Suzanne.
Thank you, sir. Wednesday the 20th, I had the absolute pleasure of going to breakfast and listening to our city redevelopment team and our Parks and Rec as they presented at the local government summit. And they were the first speakers up, and they were so impressive talking about their redevelopment plan. And they were just an icon for Fort Bend County. So congratulations, guys. You did a great job.
Jennifer. Carol.
Well, Councilmember Whiteley and I attended the Literacy Council of Fort Bend's Reading Between the Wines to raise money for adult literacy. And John Quinones, who's an ABC News veteran and host of What Would You Do, was the keynote speaker. And Councilmember Whiteley and I also attended the International Art and Kite Festival. So it was a really great event with the kite flying, art cars, chalk art, and cultural art performances. So just a super, super job by our staff on that. And then also Councilmember Ferguson and Jacobson and I attended the first HOA POA Summit.
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to be brief. We've got baseball. We're going to open it on April 2nd, next Tuesday evening at, I think, 6:05. Help us have a real successful opening of our Space Cowboys baseball team, AAA minor league. Mike, item number B.
Thanks, Mayor. Just real quick, our police officers have just been phenomenal. I've always felt like we've had the best officers, and I felt like we needed to find the best chief. And when I saw the resume and saw that he was from Virginia and started his career mowing grass in the Parks Department, I had some concerns, but I think he's done pretty good. So just congratulations on the first full year. And then offices are closed this Friday. Thank all of our employees that will be working so we can be doing whatever we do on that day. So that's it.
Yeah, have a great Easter weekend. We're going to adjourn at, Carol, I'm waiting.